Good morning, I'm Maiki Oreta, and you're watching Business 360, where we break down the numbers, connect the dots, and give you the developments and insights you need to navigate, adapt, and lead. Let's dive right in. The United States and China strike a trade framework, a bid to diffuse tensions over critical mineral exports. No charges for two ex-BSP monetary board members after a ghost employee scandal sparked internal investigations. Protests against Trump's immigration crackdown spread across major U.S. cities as National Guard troops remain on standby. And later, Makati Business Club's Apa Ongpin joins us to break down the VP impeachment roadblock and why it matters for governance and political policy stability. U.S. and Chinese officials strike a trade framework in London, a move that could ease global supply chain pressures and stabilize markets. The deal aims to diffuse tensions over critical exports, with China agreeing to review curbs on rare earth minerals and the U.S. set to roll back some trade restrictions. U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick says that the plan will be presented to President Trump for final approval. China's Vice Commerce Minister confirmed a similar next step, saying the framework will be submitted to President Xi Jinping. The talks signal a possible reset in U.S.-China trade relations with wide-ranging implications for tech, energy, and global manufacturing. Global markets end mixed as investors weigh U.S.-China trade talks and critical mineral tensions, with Wall Street ending higher on hopes of a breakthrough. U.S. stocks rose overnight as officials from Washington and Beijing continued negotiations to avert a fresh escalation in their trade war. The talks come amid growing strain, with the U.S. accusing China of restricting exports of rare earth minerals essential to high-tech industries. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick says that progress is being made, but noted that discussions may drag on beyond Tuesday night.
The tariff talk has basically sucked the air out of every room you go into. It's all everybody talks about. I think people missed a lot of the fundamentals that we had in the quarter, which is basically, again, stronger earnings, double digits, and all the major indices, even the Russell 2000, which we don't like, had double-digit earnings growth year over year. So a lot of this earnings has kind of gone under the radar, which is kind of atypical. Usually everyone gets so focused on the earnings that we kind of miss everything else. And I think because of the tariffs and because of the flopping back and forth of the president, are they on, are they off? I think a lot of the earnings got kind of missed, if you will, with the exception of a handful of the larger ones. But a lot of good earnings came out this quarter.
The Dow Jones Industrial Average higher by 0.2%, about 0.3%. The S&P 500 higher by 0.6%, and the Nasdaq higher by 0.6% as well. Over in Europe, markets were mixed. The FTSE 100 up by 0.2%. The DAX fell 0.8%, and France's CAC 40 closed higher by 0.2%. Foreign direct investments into the Philippines slowed sharply in March, falling to their lowest level in 3 months amid global uncertainty and rising tariff risks. Data from the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas shows net inflows dropped to just under $500 million, down nearly 30% from the same month last year, and the lowest since December's $110 million. The BSP says that the decline was felt across all major FDI components, pointing to broad-based caution from foreign investors. PIDS Senior Research Fellow John Paulo Rivera cites geopolitical tensions, high interest rates in developed economies, and uncertainty over U.S. tariff policies as the key drags. RCBC Chief Economist Michael Ricafort adds that U.S. trade actions have pushed investors into a wait-and-see mode, weighing on capital flows into emerging markets like the Philippines. New SEC Chairman Francis Lim hits the ground running, unveiling a sweeping agenda to revive the Philippine capital markets, cut red tape, and win back investor trust. Sujin Kim has the details.
Let's grab the bull by the horn, so to speak, diba?
In his first public appearance since taking oath last Monday, new Securities and Exchange Commission Chairman Francis Adelin Lim laid out his blueprint to revive the Philippine capital markets. Lim replaces Emilio Aquino, who served a 7-year term at the helm of the SEC. A core priority, cleaning the application backlog, Lim vowed no time will be wasted.
We'll work overtime during the weekdays. weekends and even holidays to make to resolve all pending applications.
Beyond streamlining, Lim wants to lower regulatory fees, especially for MSMEs, to make it easier for smaller firms to list on the exchange. He maintained that the lack of new laws is not the problem, but poor enforcement.
Look at the Philippine equities market. It's no secret that while we are one of the oldest exchanges, our market still lags behind. In fact, I include that in my inaugural speech. You may want to conduct. It's really ensuring that the investing public will trust their money with our market.
Currently, fewer than 300 firms are listed on the main board of the PSE with a total market capitalization of $234 billion. Lim identified one of the biggest challenges, restoring public trust in local equities, something he says cannot be achieved without strong corporate governance and investor protection. To strengthen coordination, Lim is activating technical working groups under the Capital Market Development Council, jointly led by the DOF and SEC, to review rules, systems, and the overall regulatory framework.
In fact, what I intend to do, like what the Supreme Court is doing, is to form task groups, composed, of course, led by the by the SEC and or PSE or PSE and PDEX, yung small groups to tell us what needs to be done, how to amend the rules, how to streamline, and so on and so forth. Simple but easy to enforce or implement.
Lim is also pushing for structural investor education, starting as early as high school.
So, structurally, what I intend to do is to plant the seeds of investor education way down the schools.
He's calling on state-owned enterprises to go public, taking cues from Vietnam's IPO strategy, backed by the draft Capital Market Competitiveness Act, which seeks clearer rules for GOCC listings. Sujin Kim, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
No legal charges yet for two former monetary board members linked to the BSP ghost employee scandal, raising questions about accountability at one of the country's most powerful financial institutions. The BSP confirms Anita Linda Aquino and Bruce Tolentino have not been formally charged, with their cases now under review by the Office of the President. Governor Eli Remolona Jr. says that the issue was handled seriously but considered closed after both officials resigned. The scandal first broke in late 2023 when reports revealed that several employees collected salaries without ever reporting to work. 4 ghost employees have been dismissed and permanently barred from public service, but questions remain about systemic oversight failures at the central bank. With the BSP at the heart of the country's financial stability, watchdogs say transparency and accountability remain crucial to maintaining investor confidence. The Philippine IT and business process management industry is set to outpace global growth in 2025, driven by strong job creation and export revenue gains. IT-BPM President and CEO Jack Madrid says the sector is on track to generate nearly 2 million jobs this year, up from 1.82 million in 2024. Export revenues are also seen hitting $40 billion, a fresh high for one of the country's top dollar earners. Madrid notes the industry is setting its targets based on evolving work models, talent supply, and the overall ease of doing business in the Philippines. The Agriculture Department is cracking down on illegal fish imports, freezing new accreditations, and launching a full review to protect local fisherfolk and clean up the supply chain. Agriculture Secretary Francisco Laurel Jr. says the move enforces the Anti-Agricultural Sabotage Act, targeting traders who abuse loopholes to dump imports illegally, especially during closed seasons and calamities. Starting June 14, all accredited importers will be re-vetted to ensure they operate legitimate vessels and follow proper handling procedures for imported supplies. Meanwhile, the DA is also pushing to restore the National Food Authority's power to sell rice commercially, a movement to boost farmer profits and strengthen domestic supply chains. We're taking a quick break. Please stay with us as we dive deep into the numbers and the narratives that matter most to your bottom line. Back, let's check on Asian markets this Wednesday morning. The Nikkei 225 is up, higher by 0.5%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index higher by 0.6%, and Shanghai's Composite up by 0.7%. Now, the Singapore Straits Times Index is trading to the downside, lower by 0.4%. Now, here at home, Philippine shares slipped Tuesday, snapping a brief winning streak as investors turned cautious amid uncertainty over U.S.-China negotiations and ahead of the next week's BSP rate decision. PSE index fell 0.9% yesterday to close at 63.48. Analysts say that the trade talks in London, focused on critical minerals, failed to lift market confidence. Over the near term, investors are now pricing in a 25 basis point rate cut from the BSP following a sharp drop in May inflation to just 1.3%. Taking a look at how our market is doing right now, as of 10:19 this morning, the main gauge is flat with an upward bias at 63.53. All shares index in the green as well, up by 0.2%. As for the sub-indices, we are seeing a mixed picture. The financials, industrial, property, and services sectors are in the green, while the holding firms and mining and oil counters are limiting the market's upside. Total volume traded is at 114 million. Value is at a little under 2 billion pesos right now. Market breadth is positive with 68 advancers, 44 decliners, and 48 stocks unchanged. At the currency market, the peso opened slightly stronger at 55.80 to the dollar from its previous close of 55.83. The Senate, sitting as an impeachment court, voted 18-5 to send the articles of impeachment against Vice President Sara Duterte back to the House. Now, the motion filed by Senator Judge Alan Peter Cayetano clarified that the return does not mean dismissal, only that the articles need to be clarified or completed. 5 senators voted against the move, including Coco Pimentel, Risa Ontiveros, Nancy Binay, Grace Poe, and Sherwin Gatchalian. Ontiveros argued that the Senate could have simply asked the House panel to comply without sending the entire complaint back. The decision now stalls the process, leaving it to the next Congress to decide whether to refile, revise, or drop the impeachment case. It's a moment with big implications for rule of law, checks and balances, and how institutions handle accountability at the highest levels of government. The Senate, acting as an impeachment court, formally issues a writ of summons to Vice President Sara Duterte, directing her to respond to the articles of impeachment within 10 days of receiving the documents. Senate President and Presiding Officer Chiz Escudero announced the issuance of the summons just minutes after the chamber voted 18-5 to return the complaint to the House for clarification. Under the rules, Duterte must file her answer within 10 days of receiving the summons and the impeachment complaint. The House prosecution panel will then have 5 days to file a reply. All this comes after the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines declared that the Senate has no reason to turn its back on the impeachment trial of the Vice President. CBCP President Cardinal Pablo Virgilio David issued a strong statement urging senators to allow the trial to proceed. He said, "If there is nothing to hide, there is nothing to fear. Let the truth take its course." The Cardinal warned that delaying or dismissing the trial for political convenience would be a betrayal of the Constitution and the people's trust. He adds that under church teachings, political authority must serve the common good, and that the search for truth should be guided by moral duty and not by political agenda. The impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte takes an unexpected turn as the Senate sends the case back to the House, stirring debate over legal processes and political consequences. Joining us now is Apa Ongpin, the Executive Director of the Makati Business Club, to share the group's
is basically reiterating our stand that the impeachment trial must proceed and that this is a test of the rule of law and public accountability. So we're saying this trial must happen, and the Senate's moves obviously are trying to delay it or whatever, but this, we don't want to comment on the legalities or the politics of this. For us, it's a governance issue, and it affects our ability to attract investment, both local and foreign, if we cannot demonstrate that we have a strong rule of law and public accountability.
Yeah, it definitely affects our attractiveness as an investment destination. Foreign direct investments in March have already slowed. We just had that in the earlier report. Apa, how much uncertainty does this impeachment drama create for the economy, and how does it make it difficult for businesses?
Well, there's no immediate metrics on that, but I think there will be an effect. That's just my prediction, but it is hard to say. It's just the first day on this. But
Yeah.
in particular, it's really investment, both domestic and foreign direct investment.
This back and forth between the Senate and the House, what signals is it sending to the broader business community, Apa?
Well, I think we can all have our different interpretations of that. As I said, we don't want to comment on the politics or the legality because that's not our role as the Makati Business Club. But I think it's been well, the political columnists and public opinion in general is pretty clear.
Apa, do you think the uncertainty around the impeachment trial could affect this administration's economic agenda?
In the long term, yes. In the short term, I haven't seen any effects myself, and nothing has been reported to us. But in the long term, it cannot but have an effect.
Apa, what would you like to see from our lawmakers over the coming days?
Very simple. We want the impeachment trial to proceed.
What would be your best and worst case scenario?
Well, the best case scenario is that the House responds right away, resubmits the articles of impeachment now that they've been remanded, and that the Vice President makes her response to the charges, and therefore the trial should proceed.
And Apa, if our public officials skirt their constitutional obligations, what does this say about the rule of law in the Philippines?
Well, precisely, it's not a good message. It means that you can get away with anything in this country if you're in power, and that's precisely the message we're trying to avoid. We're trying to show, no, there is public accountability here,
Yeah, okay. All right. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us, Apa. We're taking a quick break. Business 360 will be right back. Welcome back. A provincial bus company is under fire after a viral video showed 6 of its buses allegedly racing on a Cagayan highway, prompting a swift and tough response from the Department of Transportation. The operator, GV Florida Transport, runs one of the northern Luzon's biggest long-haul bus fleets, connecting Metro Manila to provinces like Cagayan, Isabela, and Apayao. It's known for its pink flower-painted coaches and has been serving commuters, workers, and students for decades. After video of the alleged racing went viral, the company apologized, calling the behavior unacceptable and promising to prioritize passenger safety. But Transport Chief Vince Dizon isn't buying it, ordering a 30-day suspension of 15 GV Florida buses operating on the Santa Ana, Sampaloc, and Baguio, Apayao routes. The 6 drivers involved will also have their licenses suspended for 90 days. Dizon mandated drug tests for all GV Florida drivers and warned that any violation of the suspension will trigger harsher penalties. The incident raises serious safety concerns for thousands of daily provincial passengers, many of whom rely on bus lines like GV Florida for long-distance affordable transportation. Now, Grab Philippines is rolling out a new electric taxi pilot, marking its first step toward electrifying its fleet and cutting transport emissions in Metro Manila. The move comes amid growing pressure on transport operators to shift to cleaner, more sustainable options. Our mobility correspondent, G. Baroga, has the details.
Grab Philippines is flipping the switch with the launch of its electric taxi service pilot. It's a big step towards greener rides and smarter cities. According to Grab, this move is right in line with their push for sustainability and got the green light from the LTFRB.
Grab is no stranger to innovation. We have launched a number of products through the years. This is obviously one of them. But this one, I think, is particularly special in that it is really the intersection of technology and Grab's purpose.
Grab says the timing couldn't be better. The tech is ready, the infrastructure is here, and riders are more eco-conscious than ever.
What we've always looked for is that win-win-win scenario. We think that the way things are now, we're able to get the win for consumers, where they feel better about taking a ride in a brand new electric vehicle.
Drivers are all smiles too. Electric vehicles are cheaper to run, which means more take-home pay. Behind the wheel of this new chapter is EV Taxi Corporation, led by Bilyonaryo heir Frankie Ang, son of Cats Group founder Felix Ang, which co-distributes some of the luxury car brands in the country.
They shared that idea of bringing the benefits of electrification to the transport sector. And with that, I think we've always been aligned in sort of uplifting like our transport offerings. And again, like the belief in our technology was also shared.
Transportation has to be both sustainable and inclusive. Sustainable to the planet, sustainable as a business, and inclusive to all of the stakeholders involved, especially the drivers.
Electric rides rock because of lower carbon footprint, zero tailpipe emissions, less maintenance, and better fuel savings. And thanks to Grab Taxi Electric, everyday commuters can enjoy all that with a smoother, quieter ride to boot.
We've been able to democratize the EVs into the mass market and allow all of the regular commuters to get a chance to enjoy all of the benefits, plus a smoother and more comfortable ride.
Although still in its beta stage, both Grab and EV Taxi Corporation have a big hope that the e-taxi fleet will grow fast and spread to more cities soon. Currently, it is available in several business and commuter hubs such as Makati, Taguig, Pasig, Mandaluyong, Parañaque, and Pasay.
Still a relatively small fleet. So the goal for us is to scale faster with the help of Grab as soon as we can in order to serve the demand as it appears.
Grab says it's all in on safety, on tech, and on providing what the Filipino commuters need.
Booking a Grab Taxi Electric is just as easy as getting any regular ride. And don't worry, fares follow the LTFRB approved rates. For BNC Mobility, G. Baroga.
The Philippines is poised for a tourism boom, with the sector expected to pump 5.9 trillion pesos into the economy this year. According to the World Travel and Tourism Council, that figure could account for over 21% of GDP, supporting nearly 11.7 million jobs. Visitor spending from both local and foreign tourists is climbing fast, signaling a full-blown recovery from pandemic lows. But experts warn the road ahead isn't guaranteed, pointing to slower arrivals from China and South Korea and global uncertainty. Still, analysts say tourism is a low-hanging fruit for growth if the country can deliver on infrastructure and security. President Marcos declares a state of calamity in eastern Visayas, triggering emergency powers to fast-track repairs on the San Juanico Bridge, a vital transport link between Samar and Leyte. Through Proclamation Number 920, the declaration, effective June 5, allows national and local governments to immediately access calamity funds and accelerate infrastructure rehabilitation. The bridge is crucial to inter-island logistics, agri-trade flows, and tourism, and the government says repairs will prioritize safety upgrades to minimize future economic disruptions. Now, a new player enters the Philippine mobility scene, bringing electric vehicles, green jobs, and fresh capital into the country's sustainable transport push. Vietnam-based ride-hailing giant Green and Smart Mobility launches operations in Manila, backed by strong support from Transport Chief Vince Dizon and Trade Secretary Cristina Roque. Officials say that the entry could spur competition, lower emissions, and open doors for more foreign investment in clean tech. Our mobility correspondent G. Baroga returns with this report.
Big news for commuters and the economy. Green GSM, Southeast Asia's top electric ride-hailing platform from Vietnam, has officially rolled into the Philippines. This exciting launch follows President Bongbong Marcos' state visit to Vietnam in 2024, and it's already being celebrated as a major win for the local economy and a greener future. For Green GSM, this move isn't just about going global. It's about doubling down on their promise to push for cleaner, smarter transport across Asia.
So we started
Asia, and now they're bringing that same energy to the Philippines.
we placed our drivers at the heart of our business. 100% of our drivers are carefully recruited, professionally trained, and officially employed under full labor contracts with insurance benefits. This gives them long-term security and the confidence to grow with us.
And it's not just about eco-friendly rides. Green GSM's fleet is equipped with AI-powered safety cameras and a smart incident response system, offering a safer and smoother experience. Plus, electric doesn't mean expensive. Green GSM says passengers can expect high-quality service at reasonable prices.
Originally, we will start in some city centers like Pasay, Makati, BGC or somewhere, because initially we have a limited number of the vehicles, so we cannot open for the whole city. But in the coming months, we will increase the number of the vehicles. So I hope we can serve more people in Metro Manila.
The Department of Transportation is all for it. Secretary Vince Dizon says foreign direct investments such as this are exactly what the country needs to build safer, more comfortable lives for Filipinos.
I think the technology that GSM is bringing to us, bringing to the Philippines, especially in the area of mobility, which is a critical part of the President's socio-economic agenda, which is to make the lives of our people more comfortable and safer, at the same time protecting our environment. Your contribution here, Your Excellency, and to the officials of GSM Global is critical to make this pledge of our President possible.
The Trade and Industry Department also sees this as a strong push toward the government's climate action goals.
The Philippine government is going all out on sustainability and digitalization. Through the Bagong Pilipinas vision, we are creating an environment where investors, innovators, like Green GSM can thrive while making a real difference in the lives of the Filipinos.
Also spotted at the launch is economic czar Frederick Go, one of the key movers working to bring more major investments into the country. For BNC Mobility, G. Baroga.
We're taking a quick breather. Business 360 will be right back. Welcome back. 10 people are dead in Austria's worst school shooting in modern history, with authorities still searching for a motive. Most of the victims were students. A dozen more were seriously injured. The 21-year-old shooter, a former student of the school, was found dead in a restroom after opening fire Tuesday night with 2 guns. Investigators say he acted alone. Austrian media reported that he had been bullied in the past and left behind a farewell letter to his parents, but without explaining why he carried out that attack. Over in North America, anti-immigration raids protests are escalating across the U.S., with demonstrations in Chicago turning violent as anger grows over the Trump administration's crackdown. Protesters clashed with police Tuesday night in downtown Chicago, joining a wave of demonstrations that started in Los Angeles. Several were reported arrested as police moved in to disperse crowds. Tensions have been building since President Trump ordered the National Guard deployed last week after immigration raids sparked outrage and street protests across Southern California. Protests against President Trump's immigration crackdown are spreading, with tensions flaring in New York City. CNN reports that New York police have begun detaining protesters after blasting recorded warnings through loudspeakers, accusing them of violating city traffic laws. Demonstrations have also broken out in other U.S. cities, including Atlanta, as anti-raid sentiment continues to grow nationwide. Meantime, U.S. President Donald Trump is defending his controversial decision to deploy troops to Los Angeles amid escalating protests against his immigration policies. Speaking to soldiers at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, Trump called the demonstrations a full-blown assault on peace and said troops were needed to protect federal buildings and personnel on the ground.
Under the Trump administration, this anarchy will not stand. We will not allow federal agents to be attacked, and we will not allow an American city to be invaded and conquered by a foreign enemy. And that's what they are. A lot of those people were let in here by the Biden administration. They just poured right in.
California officials have slammed the move as a dangerous overstep, with the state's Democratic leaders accusing Trump of using military force for political theater. The president, in turn, took aim at state authorities, escalating the standoff between the White House and California's government.
In Los Angeles, the governor of California, the mayor of Los Angeles, they're incompetent, and they paid troublemakers, agitators, and insurrectionists. They're engaged in this willful attempt to nullify federal law and aid the occupation of the city by criminal invaders. That's what it is. They're invaders, no different.
And that's it for Business 360. I'm Maiki Oreta. Thank you for joining us, and keep it here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo news channel.